Hello, welcome to the Eclectic Reader. Listen to great books and stories while you use your eyes and hands for other things. Now here's your host, Madison Mason.
Hi, Madison Mason here. Welcome to Chapter 16 of the novel, The Gray Quarry Boys. The Gray Quarry Boys, Chapter 16, Men and Women. In the shade of the barn door the old man sat, sanding another duck's head. He had carved it out of a bit of old 2x6 lying around. He never threw anything away if he could avoid it. Sometimes it drove Marlene to distraction that he was willing to live with clutter. But it wasn't clutter to him. He knew where everything was. In his young life, he had been without. He made sure that never happened again by saving all manner of stuff. And he eventually used it all, every bit, just like now. He didn't have to buy anything to build this mailbox. It was all from scrap. An hour later, he'd attached the neck and the head to the box and hung wings on the sides, so when the breeze picked up, they would spin like propellers, giving the mailbox the appearance of a duck in flight. This one would look even better than the first. After he painted it, he placed it to dry on the picnic table in the backyard and went on to other chores. From the barn, he heard Marlene's cry of delight. He saw her sweet old face when she looked out the kitchen window and smiled to himself. It made him feel good to please her. It always had. He loved his old woman, and the way she was feeling lately, he wanted her to be happy as much as he could possibly make it happen. Buddy James spun slowly on the playground swing. Cool wind sang in the skeletal sycamores as he dug his run-down heels in the sand and forced the swing into languid circles. He hunched against the breeze, blowing the blues out of his harp in the empty afternoon. His lips still hurt from the night, and his face was swollen on the left side, telling anyone that his stepfather, Ralph Scanlon, was a right-hand hitter. Buddy leaned forward in the swing, letting the chains cut his shoulders, and made the Marine Band harmonica cry long tears of pain and stubborn hate and murderous thoughts. When he smelled the stink of a cigarette, he jerked slightly and stopped, almost afraid to look up. He'd thought he was alone. "Don't stop," came a voice from behind him. He ground his left heel in the dirt underneath and swung around to his right. Sue Marie Davenport sat atop a picnic table, legs crossed, a penny loafer dangling from her white bobby sock, and watched him through deadened eyes. He never heard her approach, or sit, or light up. He was so absorbed in his cold anger and music. He stared at her, unable to speak or put together an idea of what it was that he saw. She was a stranger now, transformed from the girl he always saw in class, like she'd gone off to New York somewhere and lived a few years or something. Eyeshadow and makeup gave her girlish face a hard, knowing maturity, and the crinoline and wide poodle skirt with rhinestones were now replaced by tight black toreador pants that showed a new sultry figure. Scarlet lipstick released a snake of smoke that slithered around her bored face and vanished in the drifting breeze. "Sounds good. Play some more," she half whispered, but the look in her eyes said she didn't give a damn whether he played or not. It was less than 2 months since her parents died, but she'd aged from 15 to 30. Being a loner, Buddy kept to himself and never paid much attention to her, but even he could see she wasn't the same girl anymore. Too much had happened. Embarrassed blood rushed to his cheeks. He was on the spot. His mind went blank. He always played for himself, for the pain to go away. The sounds of the harp winding in the air rubbed his spirit the right way. Now someone was watching, listening. Now he had to perform. All the songs he'd copied off the radio suddenly disappeared from his head. I don't, he stammered, but Sue Marie just smoked and gazed into the distance. Buddy put the harp, gone cold, back in his mouth and stared at the red clay under his feet. Then, slowly, he started to drawl John Lee Hooker's Hobo Blues from the cool metal. Wah, 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 wah. Sue Marie closed her eyes and pulled lazily at her smoke, while Buddy's notes slowly danced, like sad invisible ghosts in the brittle air. She could hear words in the screech of the whining notes. Wah, 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 wah. She swayed slightly, feeling it touch her core, choking her up. tears rising behind the blue shadow on her sullen lids. Sad sounds, so cold, so lonely, matching the pictures running inside her eyes. Dark visions smelling of cigarette burns. He watched her from the edge of his vision as she French inhaled, letting the thick smoke slide from her red mouth into her turned-up nose, inhaled again and blown out across the blue notes hanging in the swings. Two out-of-place people, not made for the playground. A wah, 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 wah. He finished and sat on the swing, embarrassed, head down, waiting for further instructions. He didn't know what to do. He'd never hung out with a girl, just us guys, and we all pretty much knew to let him be. Silence gelled with the spring breeze, making a soft music of its own. Sue Marie took a last drag off her smoke and flicked it into the sandbox. Buddy could see some little kid picking it up and eating it. He made note of where it lay in his mind and turned to say something, but Sue Marie was staring into a distant vision, small and vulnerable, her eyes red, mascara running down one cheek, her hardness dissolved in the wash of his black blues. Her eyes flicked over to focus on his face. The second she saw him, she turned tough and older again, as if a thin shield of clear ice fell out of the sky to surround her, a protective cylinder, impenetrable from ground to heaven. "That was good," she whispered. "Thanks. Where do you live?" Down the street," he gestured. "Your folks home?" No. You got anything to drink at your house?" Like what?" "Like whiskey." She lowered him a look that dared him to say no. He'd never seen this skinny little schoolgirl from the stupid gang of giggly girlfriends act like this. It was like watching, what's-her-name, Ava Gardner in a movie or something. She was annoying, bossy, and sexual all at the same time. He didn't know if it was hanging with a girl or being ordered to play or what, but it made him sore. "Well, yeah, there's whiskey," he mumbled half to himself. "Let's go then," she decided, hopping off the concrete picnic table and dusting off her bottom. "What, to my house?" But he was talking to her back, her thin shoulders headed in the direction he'd pointed. He rose to follow, then stopped. He went into the sandbox. He found her cigarette, a little kid booby trap still smoldering defiantly. He snatched it up and scumbled the sand with his worn sneaker. When he reached the sidewalk, he ground the butt under his heel and followed Sue Marie up the street. His gaze drifted from her jean jacket and white upturned collar, past her tight black toreadors to slender calves and sculpted ankles that disappeared into bright white cotton socks. He caught up to her. She stared straight ahead, fists jammed in the pockets of her jacket. "What happened to you?" she asked, not looking at him. Me? What do you mean?" "Your eye. Who hit you?" It was football. Don't be a fucking liar," she laughed darkly. "You don't play football no more'n I do." "No, really, Sue Marie stopped and turned on him. The danger in her eyes surprised him. He was facing someone he had never known before. "Cut the shit. Somebody punched you. Who?" Her face, so girlish for so long, had an unimpressed toughness, mature and jaded, but she looked at his wounded cheek with compassion. Her cold fingers gently touched the bruise around his eye. No girl had ever touched him. It hit him like 1,000 volts. It tore through his resolve and torched the truth. "My old man," he mumbled, embarrassed. "Son of a bitch. Bastard," she muttered, turning away and walking again. He fell in beside her, hands in his jeans, and didn't look at her. "Which one's yours?" Down there, 506. "You sure nobody's home?" They're at work." "Cool, come on." Her air of command annoyed him, but his resentment lay quietly down in him like an obedient dog. He suddenly felt like he would follow her anywhere, do anything she told him. And though she'd never say it, he knew she would stand by him no matter what. He knew it. They walked together along the empty sidewalk, past closed houses, unspoken partners in the crime of living. "This is it," he said, as they neared his house. He was almost afraid to take her in. "Come on, let's go," she said, tugging his arm. Buddy let her lead him to his own door and looked around guiltily as she turned the knob, hoping no neighbors saw. Sue Marie stood inside the dim living room while Buddy opened the Venetian blinds. Her quick eyes briefly scanned each object exposed to the inflowing daylight and read them for danger. This was a strange place compared to what she was used to at her uncle's house. Buddy James lived with mill workers, it was clear. Everything was cheap, not just inexpensive, but meager in its lack of taste. A white vinyl couch and veneer coffee table hosted empty beer bottles and drink glasses. An old chest of drawers seemed more in place than a farmhouse bedroom. Buddy began to fuss about, straightening up and dumping ashtrays. "You nervous?" she asked. No," he lied. But she could see in his eyes that he was more than nervous. He was scared. He acted like a frightened cat, and the house smelled like a bar she'd gone into once with her uncle to meet a man. "You gonna get in trouble?" "Well, what about? You want me to go? I don't want to get you in hot water." It's okay. You just gotta leave by 5. That's when they get home?" "That's when they get off work. But after that they come home," he answered, his eyes down. "Okay," Sue Marie sighed and pushed away from the door. She sat on the couch and opened her purse. Buddy watched as if she were an animal in a zoo, strange and exotic, that he had stolen and released at his house. She was maybe not even 15 yet, and she carried herself like a grown woman, assured, in charge, unquestioning of herself, nothing like the other girls in Gray Quarry Junior High. He stood awkward and stupid, not knowing what to do or say next. He felt trapped in his own living room. She lit another cigarette, inhaling deeply, and muttered through the escaping smoke, "I'll take that drink now." It struck him like something he'd seen in a movie, like Veronica Lake or Rita Hayworth would say to Clark Gable, like movie stars talked. He nodded and went into the kitchen. He took the bottle of ancient age bourbon from the cupboard and poured her half a glass. Then he carefully poured half a glass of water from the sink back into the bottle so his old man wouldn't know. He brought her drink like an obedient servant and stood watching her sip. "Thanks," she coughed, her eyes watering and her forehead turning red. She wheezed. "You have a Coke or something?" You want some water?" "Yeah, water. Quick," she fluttered. He hurried to the kitchen and returned with a glass of tap water. She gulped it greedily, soothing her burning throat. "Cool. That's better," she giggled. "You don't even know how to drink," he observed. "How come you want to drink whiskey?" "It makes me okay, with everything. You wouldn't understand." She was right. He didn't understand. He saw whiskey as dangerous. Her haughty aplomb offended him. He wanted to tell her to get out of his house. Who did she think she was? But he couldn't and didn't know why. He knew he didn't like her, but he liked being with her. "Put on some music, why don't you?" "Okay." Buddy slouched to his room and returned with the secret pliers. He turned the radio to WGIV and Genial Gene. Suddenly the room was filled with the fat blues and reedy voice of Memphis Slim. "Feeling low in spirit, no place to go. Feeling low in spirit with no place to go." The saxophones wailed while the piano ran under the vocal like water on rocks. "That's cool." Sue Marie jumped up from the couch, suddenly a young girl again. "Let's dance. Come on." She grabbed his hand. "My baby left me, people. I'm going down slow," called Slim. I don't dance. I can't." He pulled back. But her enthusiasm would not be diverted. She moved into him. "I'll show you. Come on, do this." He felt awkward and smelled the whiskey on her breath. Sue Marie pulled him close, swaying to the music. "Blues every night, blues every day, blues ever since my baby went away." He stood stiff and awkward, not knowing what to do. His heart pounded as she tried to move him around the floor, seconds ago so snotty, demanding, now warm and pliant and smelling good. "Can't sleep when she's gone, can't rest when she's around." He began to sway with her, to be part of the music, the dance, her. "That's right. See how easy it is? There. See? You're good. My love I'd die for. I can't put my baby down." The song ended, and just as suddenly Sue Marie stopped and looked hard into his eyes, as if he had said something insulting. "You're not going to get any, so don't even think about it, okay?" Buddy was confused. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not putting out for you or nobody else. That's not why I'm here. I'm not that kind of girl, so forget it." "What? I didn't say nothing," Buddy James snapped. This was too much. There was softness to her voice, but her face was grim. "Just so you know." That's pretty insulting." "Well," she sighed as if it sufficed for explanation, or perhaps even an apology. Buddy nudged her toward the door. "You better leave." "No," she blurted. "Don't make me go. Not yet, please. Come on, let's dance. Why'd you have to turn on the radio with pliers?" he asked somewhat desperately. He realized he still held the tool in his hand. My stepfather takes the knobs off so I can't listen to the music." Sue Marie's face turned to stone, and her eyes brimmed with hate for a man she didn't know. "Fucking prick! That fucking prick!" she spat. "It's okay," he spoke softly. "Fucking prick!" she cried, tears starting on her cheek. "Hold me, Buddy James. Dance with me." He put down the pliers and took her in his awkward arms as little Walter, Buddy's heart-playing hero, came on playing Blue Light, the most soulful tune Buddy knew. It rolled and wailed out of the knobless radio as Sue Marie pressed close to his chest, and they shuffled around the living room in small circles. He pulled out his harp and played along with little Walter. After a few turns, she began to whimper like a small child who had scraped her knee, and then came tears, and they came on, until finally she stood like stone, clutching Buddy James and racked with sobs. He stopped playing and looked at her. Buddy James had never held or hugged anyone in his life, but now he did. He stood holding her. Sue Marie, this girl, this sobbing stranger who muttered over and over, "Fucking prick, fucking prick."
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Eclectic Reader. Please go on to the next numbered episode to continue. Also, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you'd like to help support the project, you can donate under Madison Mason at Patreon. And please, check out our website, kltkrdr.com, for more information.
Hi, this is Madison Mason. I want to personally thank you for listening to The Eclectic Reader and invite you to share your experience, your thoughts, and your suggestions. We have many great books lined up for the future, but if you have requests for anything that is in the public domain, please email us at kltkrdr@gmail.com.
kltkrdr@gmail.com